afternoon, my friends. This is Rick, and you are seated at the table. We are looking at the Middle-earth adventure module Ghost Warriors, based on J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings from Iron Crown Enterprises. For the MERP, or Middle-earth role-playing game system, was the original game system, by the way, in case you're new to this stuff. And we are looking at, it was copyrighted in 1990, so this was produced in 1990, and it's set in southwest, well, it's not Rohan, it's Dunland or northern Dunland, how do you want to look at it. It's set in the hills to the west and slightly to the north of Isengard, and yet another version of the undead or undead haunting in underground cities that you found behind Helm's Deep that were tied to the Irkstone, and this is one that the player characters get to find out about. Tale the Oath-breaking. It said that during the mid-Second Age, the Dean Coders were people skilled in the hills and vales at the foot of the White Mountains. They're descendants of the ancient noble the Dandel race and migrated over the plains of Rohirrim to the end of Rovidian to the end of the First Age. These tribes crossed the Anduin and settled in lands that later become Gondor. Though they lived peacefully, blah blah. As we know that Eldel came to the after the fall of Nuremberg, Eladin came to Middle Earth, started the countries of Arnor and Gondor properly, and set the Irkstone, and had the chieftains swear, and the High Chieftain didn't hold up his bargain, and they reneged when the battle of the Last Lance came, and a curse set in, a terrible curse that basically wiped out the entire race of this particular people, and you know the story. So we got the Ghost Warriors of Dunfearan. Staring from the southern face of one of the southwest cliffs in the Misty Mountains, twin entrances of the cavern stronghold, Tughab and Behen extrude darkness from their sinister archways. These caverns serve no other purpose other than to provide a dwelling for the Dunish shaman and her small army of undead minions. Travelers beware. All right, so it goes on about the history of the oath breaking. These tried to hope they're to escape from the land of the roaming dead, allow them to also escape the curse laid on their ancestors, yet perhaps the breaking of an oath by some many maybe bring a curse upon the rest. Certainly more troubles were destined to shadow their future. Surrounded further plans for Dunish minions conveyed to their shamans, the Dark Lords, and the Dark Lords will push the warriors to war on the men of Kaldunarharn, otherwise Gondor's northern province at the time that eventually becomes Rohan. Great Plague of 1636 swept over the land. Minds of the Dunlandings were stirred of fearful recollections of the oath-breaking. They believed the plague was a consequence of their ancestors' treachery, since this secluded people contracted diseases by their frequent raids upon Gondorian wagon trains. Among the foothills, the Dunlanding tribes suffered. In an effort to escape the plague, Clan Bagon entered an opening in the slopes of the Helgithor of the Misty Mountains. Caverns connected to the Underdeeps, and the tribe rushed into the depths of the mountains, believing that there they would be safe. Behind them, in the entry caves, they left a riddle to guard the secret of their flight. With them, they took the wealth of the many that they had perished around them. The clan never surfaced from their subterranean hideout. And then we go into the story of this young lady who becomes the master of the undead and starts using them to terrorize the neighborhood. So the Ghost Warriors of Dunfearan, attacked by the spirits, the NPCs. Abraham the Young was the granddaughter of Durna the Lonely, priestess of the Dunland's famous healer hall. Unlike her forebears, she was fascinated by the ancient black arts designed to rule ghosts that haunted her people's memories. It gives you the gist of it, and it doesn't end well. It starts problems. The race came within the mist in the late afternoon, rolled across the meadows surrounding the clan hold Dagon. Shrieking like caged hawks, the spirits circled the shepherds who refused to flee, while corpse warriors in their train engaged these hardy few in battle. The defeated victims were then bound and dragged toward the ghost caves. Among these were taken was Ishmael and her 15-year-old daughter and 8-year-old son, Borkul, a smith and carpenter, Dunhan. The children had strayed from the main herd in search of a lost cow. NPCs. So, the task. PCs must track the undead warriors to their halting place in the forest clearing, and destruction of spirits and dunnish ghouls are not their primary aim, but it may become necessary in a course of rescuing the two children. Ideally, a clever scheme should be devised to prevent the adventurers from confronting the entire undead host, which probably would be the end of the adventure part at that point. The setting, starting the players, the aids, obstacles, counters, rewards, raid by night. 2 nights ago, the undead warriors swept through the foothills of the forest, finding a camp merchant train at the wood's edge. Fortunately, the travelers were not yet settled for the night, and they fled the spirit army when a guard shouted a warning. The shaman's acolyte then looted the wagons. The merchant had lost not only his profits from the venture, but his wagon and horses as well. Furthermore, the undead assailants escaped without loss. So, the threat to the clan hold, NPCs, the terrain, the Riddle Caves. Small glade in front of a bare cliff wall surrounded by heavy conifers holds the entrance to the Riddle Caves. A fairly worn road runs west from the mouth of the 8-foot wide opening and then forks amidst 3 boulder heaps. Blah, blah, blah. The mound of boulders closest to spring is the shadow of a Pukal man. Cave entrance, blah, blah. Understanding the riddles. Basically, Riddle Caves are accessible from a flat shelf in the rocky crags on the northern side of the mountain spur. The edge of the forest lies at the elevation of 3,200 feet. Beyond this point, the cliffs steepen, rising under 4,000 feet under 4 miles, and under 4 miles behind the cave entrance. Winds are strong on the shelf, blah, blah. It's kind of a lesser version of Dunharrow, right? And so it would be Dunharrow, not Helm's Deep. That was incorrect of me to say that earlier. It was not Helm's Deep, but behind Dunharrow. And the Paths of the Dead. So instead we have the Paths of Riddles. And you're going to go through the various riddles, the second, first, third, fourth riddle, the last riddle, the ghost caves themselves, the entrance, level 1, the ghost caves, etc. The task. The adventurers must solve the mystery of the Riddle Caves, travel along the path of riddles, solving its puzzles, and arrive at the back at the ghost caves on the southern side of the mountain spur. Having braved the perils of the Underdeeps, PCs must then assassinate Targan Abrahan or steal her staff, or both, and escape, rescuing the captain and grabbing some loot or secondary objectives. Race to the entrance to the caves after the theft of ghost bane should be sufficiently challenged itself. The Whites, Walking Dead, and the ghouls will prove hostile foes even without a constraint imposed them on by the shaman. So, starting the players, aids, obstacles, rewards. Anytime you're dealing with the undead and Middle Earth, it's going to be nasty, and you should be mid-level to above mid-level, in my opinion, to tackle these things and have any kind of real good success. Intrigues of the Underdeep, the setting, various random passages, medium passages, B-map series, etc., wide passages, etc., underground descriptions, random, dark and peaceful, for example, or a dark pit, a narrow limestone, whatever you see, you get the idea. Orc patrol and cave trolls, various possible encounters, lesser ghosts. Then we got the ghosts. Lesser ghosts, greater ghosts, orcs, skeletons, skeleton lord. I always find it interesting that you have some kind of combination of living beings like orcs or goblins and undead in proximity to each other. I find that highly unlikely because the undead are going to not care what kind of living thing it is. They're going to go after them. So the orcs And the undead, unless there's some powerful source that can keep them from one from feeding and eliminating the other, this isn't going to work. Just my personal opinion. It's from one of them dungeon crawl mindsets. Lesser white, minor white, major white, crypts, the undead, giant spiders, the Urkai, we're back to the same thing. Lots of undead, some of them very powerful, and then we got living things. And the spiders are considered, giant spiders are kind of intelligent, and we're back to the the undead. We're going to go after the damn spiders, and they're going to go after the Urkai, and they're going to go after the damn orcs and anything else that's living. I don't care, unless there's some constraint that's placed upon them. And this is just my opinion, of course. But that's up to whoever, how you want to run it. So watch in the water, which also would be subject to being potentially preyed upon by the undead. And there's just saying, undead is undead. I don't care. Giant cave giants, back to the undead, right? Stone trolls, the undead's going to get them. They don't care. Then you would have undead stone trolls. That would be nasty. Undead giants. That would be nasty. Just opinions, right? But undead cold drake. Now this is a cold drake, giant serpent, cave trolls. These are things that you potentially run into in the Underdeeps, but if they're anywhere in the vicinity of the undead and the undead can get to them, they're not likely to stick around because the undead's going to come after them and try to feed off their life force and kill them. I mean, hello? Anyway, the task was, Pisces must locate a cave entrance into the Underdeeps and either prove or disprove the legends by venturing into the roots of the mountains. In order to be considered successful, they must resurface from beneath the earth to tell about it. So go down there and come back. Yeah, that you're successful. Whether you bring any loot, you come back with your lives intact, your sanity, you just, yeah, it's a good day for you. So, rumors and legend, Walking Dead, so on and so forth. That's just a continuation of this map. And there was some subject content. If I remember, I'll put a post to his channel because he's a really big Middle Earth fan and member of my channel, and he's got his own channel going, and he's got a lot of the same material I have, and it's in better shape, and he has a better presentation to some of it, in my opinion. It's worth his time of subscribing to his channel and looking at his stuff. Just saying, we were discussing that the overview of the maps, that a lot of these smaller maps, if you were able to take these maps out, and like him, I'm not tearing the covers off these things on purpose, because that would be terrible. You try finding one of these online and just look at what the cost of these things would be to try to replace them. You might get lucky, and some of them are terribly expensive, and others so much. But anyway, I never ran a campaign with this particular source book. I never really had time to tap into it. I don't remember exactly why, because once again, Middle Earth is huge, and the campaigns I ran were usually set either in Arnor or its splinter states, or in Gondor, and rarely in the Far East. I never really messed around in the general presenting at Dunland all that much, and not alone if I were going to have my encounters, they were going to go to the undead. They're going to go visit Dunfearan and Pass of the Dead, because that's a source book that's just basically, this is just a different variation on that story, in my opinion. That doesn't make it any less worth having or being interesting. Just my opinion. Till next time, this is Rick, and you guys have a great day.